There are moments in royal history that happen quietly, almost invisibly, yet carry consequences so enormous that their full weight takes years to be felt. What happened on September 8th, 2022, the day Queen Elizabeth II passed away at Balmoral Castle, was one of those moments. Yes, the world watched Charles ascend to the throne. Yes, the flags were lowered and the grief was global. But in the background, without ceremony or announcement, something else occurred. Something that would eventually shake the foundations of the royal household and leave one of its most powerful figures scrambling for security she no longer possesses. Prince William, in the instant his father became King Charles III, automatically inherited control of the Duchy of Cornwall, one of the oldest, most valuable, and most strategically significant private estates in the entire British Isles. And with that inheritance came something nobody in Camilla's inner circle had fully prepared for. A new boss who remembered everything, forgave nothing, and was already making his moves. To understand why this matters, you first need to appreciate exactly what the Duchy of Cornwall represents. This is not simply a collection of farms and holiday cottages tucked away in the English countryside. The Duchy of Cornwall is a financial empire stretching across approximately 135,000 acres of land spread through multiple counties in England and Wales. It encompasses large portions of the stunning Isles of Scilly, sweeping moorlands across Devon, historic tenant farms, ancient castles, and commercial investments built up over generations. Its estimated value sits well above $1 billion, and by recent accounts, it generates annual revenues in the region of $30 million. The estate was originally established in 1337 by King Edward III, designed specifically as an independent financial base for the heir to the throne. The purpose was deliberate and deeply political, to ensure that the Prince of Wales could never be financially manipulated or controlled by the reigning monarch. It was built to create independence, and nearly 7 centuries later, that independence is exactly what William now holds. For decades before William, this estate belonged to Charles. It funded his lifestyle, his charitable projects, his personal properties, and yes, it funded the years during which he conducted his long, secret affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, the relationship that Diana, Princess of Wales, famously described as making her feel like there were 3 people inside her marriage. The money that flowed through this estate during those years helped sustain the very relationship that broke his first family apart. Now, that same estate belongs to Diana's eldest son. The symbolism alone is staggering. When William took control of the duchy, one of the first things he examined was the payroll, and what he found there had been sitting quietly for almost 2 decades. Annabel Elliot, Queen Camilla's younger sister, had been employed by the Duchy of Cornwall since 2005. Her role was as an interior designer, commissioned to oversee and beautify properties across the estate, from holiday cottages on the Isles of Scilly to historic residences in Wales and beyond. Her work, by most accounts, was genuinely skilled. She was recognized in 2014 as one of the most influential female interior designers in the United Kingdom, and her fingerprints were across some of the most elegant properties in the royal portfolio. But the circumstances of how she obtained that contract were, to put it diplomatically, irregular. There was no competitive tendering process. There was no open application. Annabel Elliot was awarded a lucrative, long-term royal contract for one reason, and one reason only. Her sister had married the man who owned the estate. That was the entire basis of the arrangement. For nearly 20 years, she collected fees ranging from tens of thousands to over £80,000 annually, all drawn from an estate that William would one day inherit. There is a layer beneath this story that makes it even more uncomfortable. During the years when Charles and Camilla needed to conduct their affair in secret, while Charles was still married to Princess Diana, It was Annabel's private home in the Dorset countryside that provided them with cover. Weekend after weekend, the future king and his mistress met quietly at Annabel's house, shielded from public attention, while Diana remained unaware of the full extent of what was happening. Annabel did not merely benefit from Camilla's rise. She was an active participant in making that rise possible, providing the privacy and protection that allowed the relationship to survive. Years later, after Diana was gone, after the scandal had broken publicly, after Charles had married Camilla, Annabel was on the royal payroll, employed through an estate connected directly to Diana's sons, drawing income from land that would eventually be owned by the boy who lost his mother partly because of the secret that house in Dorset helped protect. When William finally reviewed the situation and made his decision, it was not impulsive. It was the conclusion of a very long observation. William's response to finding Annabel Elliot on his payroll was characteristically measured. He did not call a press conference. He did not issue a statement. He did not send a dramatic letter or arrange a formal meeting. He simply waited for the Duchy of Cornwall's routine annual financial report, a dry, technical document that barely registers on the public radar. And when it was published, Annabel Elliot's name was absent. 20 years of royal employment, gone without a single public word. Royal commentators noted the significance immediately. Emmy Griffiths, a respected royal analyst, confirmed that since Prince William had assumed control of the duchy, Annabel had been removed from the payroll, describing it carefully as having caused a few ripples. That is a masterpiece of understatement. Inside royal circles, the message was deafening. William had served notice, not loudly, not publicly, but unmistakably, that the informal arrangements built around Camilla's comfort and her family's benefit would not survive his tenure. At the same time, William moved to fill key positions within the duchy with people from his own trusted circle. Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cutsum, both personal friends and godparents to his children Prince George and Prince Louis, were brought into positions of influence. The contrast could not have been clearer. Out went Camilla's family. In came William's people. Every appointment told the same story. A new era had arrived, and it would operate on entirely different terms. To truly understand why William's actions carry the weight they do, you have to go back to 2005, before Charles married Camilla. William and Harry, still young men navigating grief and family complexity, approached their father privately with a single, specific request. According to Harry's memoir, they told Charles they supported him, they would welcome Camilla, and they would stand beside him publicly. But they asked him not to marry her. They asked him simply to be with her, to avoid the spectacle of a wedding that would inevitably drag their mother's memory through every newspaper in the world and force painful comparisons no grieving child should have to endure. Charles listened to both his sons. Then he married Camilla anyway. To soften the blow, Buckingham Palace made a formal public commitment. When Charles eventually became king, Camilla's title would be princess consort. She would never be queen. That was the agreement. William accepted it. He attended the wedding, fulfilled his duties with dignity, and carried his private feelings somewhere they could not be seen. Then in February 2022, Queen Elizabeth II, elderly, unwell, and clearly aware that her time was limited, released a statement during her platinum jubilee marking 70 years on the throne. Buried inside that message was a declaration that Camilla should be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king. Many observers read it as a gracious act of acceptance. Those with closer knowledge of the Queen's private views told a different story. Elizabeth had used words in private that never reached public ears. She had described Camilla as dangerous. This was not an endorsement born of warmth. It was a calculated concession from a woman who was trying to contain a situation she knew she would not live long enough to manage herself. By May 2023, at the coronation, the word consort had quietly disappeared altogether. Camilla was crowned simply as queen, the title both princes had specifically sought to prevent, the title the original promise had explicitly ruled out. Every version of that promise had been rewritten, and William had watched each rewrite in silence. Sources close to him described his resentment as deep, carefully managed, and absolutely undiminished. The tension between William and Camilla has occasionally broken through the carefully maintained surface of royal composure. One particularly revealing episode came at Christmas, when Camilla invited her son Tom Parker Bowles, her child from her first marriage, to the family gathering at Sandringham. William made his position clear through back channels. He would not attend the main Christmas celebration if Tom was present. Camilla invited Tom regardless. Tom confirmed publicly that his mother had personally extended the invitation, telling him she had not spent Christmas with him in many years. William kept his word. He did not attend the main gathering at the big house. He remained at Anmer Hall, his family's home on the Sandringham estate, celebrating Christmas privately with Kate and their children. The future King of England had been effectively pushed out of his own family's most important annual tradition because the current queen chose her son over his objections and refused to compromise. Then, in September 2025, during Donald Trump's state visit to Windsor Castle, a moment was captured on camera that spread around the world within hours. Kate, the Princess of Wales, had fallen into warm and natural conversation with Melania Trump. The two women were clearly connecting genuinely. Then Camilla stepped in from the side and made a short, firm gesture toward Kate, a motion that body language expert Judy James later described bluntly as appearing to pull rank and shoo Kate away. The clip was viewed millions of times. It was slowed down, replayed, and analyzed extensively, because what it appeared to show was the current queen publicly dismissing the future queen in front of visiting world leaders. Sources indicated that William's reaction behind closed doors was one of controlled fury. A line had been crossed. Not a private disagreement, but a public statement broadcast to the entire world. Here is the part of this story that explains why sources describe Camilla as genuinely frightened about her future. Right now, her life appears entirely secure. She moves between Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, Sandringham, and Balmoral. She carries the title Her Majesty the Queen. She serves as patron or president of more than 90 charities. She is, by every visible measure, at the peak of her position. But here is the reality beneath that surface. Sandringham House in Norfolk and Balmoral Castle in Scotland are not government properties. They are not Crown Estate assets, managed by public institutions. They are privately owned, inherited assets, passed from monarch to monarch the same way a family home passes between generations. Queen Elizabeth II inherited both from her father, King George VI. When she died in 2022, they passed directly to Charles. When Charles dies, they pass directly to William. Balmoral is valued at approximately $140 million. Sandringham at approximately $65 million. Together, that is more than $200 million in private property that Camilla currently lives in, walks through, and treats as home. None of it legally belongs to her in any document that exists anywhere. She occupies those homes because her husband is alive and because he is king. The moment that changes, the moment William inherits, her continued presence in those homes becomes entirely